Getting married is a little bit like the conclusion of a job interview process.
What do you mean?
So, like, dating is the job interview, and then you get married, and it's like you got the job.
Oh, yes. It's the end of the chase.
It's the end of the chase. It's often seen as like, hey, I got the job, so now I don't have to actually grow anymore.
Yeah.
I can just coast. Like a lot of people do at their jobs. They just show up and they coast.
Yeah. There's a lot of women, probably men too, but I'm a woman, so I hear a lot of women. Often they're like, marriage isn't what I thought it would be, or he was so X, Y, and Z when we were dating, and now he's not X or Y and barely Z, right? It's like, going back to your job interview analogy, it's kind of like when you would make a resume and you would tell people, I'm proficient in Microsoft Word, right? Because you thought that was a great skill to have.
Well, I am proficient. It's more like when I told people I could speak Spanish.
Because you took 2 years of high school Spanish.
That's right.
Right?
I was basically bilingual according to my resume.
Right. So these people hire you thinking that they have this like amazing applicant, and then you get the job, and then they're like,
ooh,
wait, what?
Where's that go-getter, that person who showed so much promise?
And you don't know more than like 11 words in Spanish, right?
Lo siento.
Cause you are the best thing that's ever happened to me.
And you hit the nail on the head, right? I think so much of the issues in marriage is when both people stop growing, or if one person refuses entirely to grow. A marriage cannot thrive. It cannot be successful if people are stagnant.
Mm-hmm. And what I was going with before is it can be the ultimate construction zone that allows you to grow and become the best version of yourself if you let it. If you see it as the completion of the job interview process and you got it and it's time to just coast, it won't be that thing.
Yeah.
And it's probably going to be something that that fails ultimately, because you have to keep growing. You have to keep pursuing the best version of yourself the moment you get married.
So, okay, practically speaking for people, what does this look like practically speaking? Because we didn't really nail this until like what, we're 15, 16 years of marriage?
We had periods of where it would be pursuing growth, and then it would go back into that comfort zone.
Right.
And then you'd pursue growth, and then you'd go back into that comfort zone. And that's frustrating. I know you'd get frustrated with it. You'd be like, why are we continuing to deal, why are we continuing to deal with the same issues? And
maybe that's, just listening to it, so many couples, and I would be curious what other people would have to say, but so many couples are like, I'm so tired of having the same fight day after day, or, okay, I'll be here next weekend for the same exact fight on the same exact issue, right? But maybe that's the heart of the problem, is that a lack or a unwillingness to grow, or even recognize that you need to grow. Like, this fight keeps happening because either one of you or both of you are failing to shift and grow and be accountable to change.
Well, it's going to magnify the patterns, because it's just built on patterns of how you live, those habits that you do every day that are hard to break unless you are consciously focused on them, right? Like a conversation that we, dare I say, continue to have is like leaving my socks on the floor or leaving my underpants on the floor.
I don't even fight that anymore. I don't fight it. Here's the thing. For people listening, I want to be very straightforward. This man is almost 40 years old. His mama does not live with him. I am not his mama. I am not his maid. No. I am definitely not his slave, even though I am black. You need to clean up your own socks, and you need to clean up your underwear. Okay?
Are we getting there?
We are. We're
now?
gonna get a little into this because I
Yeah.
think this is part of the thing because I have learned to pick my battles, right?
Yes.
But I do think that where I feel like your growth is lacking is that to me is it's not about your socks and your underwear.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lack of consideration. My wife likes the home environment to be this way, right? Which you can't even have with all these kids. All these kids don't let your home environment be clean.
No.
It's a constant war
Right.
zone, right? But that's okay. They're children. Now I have a lovely adult husband here with me who I know can pick up his socks and underwear. Why he chooses to not pick them up, I don't know 18 years later. Do you want to tell the people and me?
It's a thing where you just sometimes leave them where they are, and then you go back and you clean up 3 or 4 at one time instead of just cleaning them up one at a time. There's also a lot going on.
There is a lot going on. And I will give you that. But to me is a lack of consideration, right? So that used to feel so personal. Like you're coming into my home, to my ministry, which is caring for the home at the time, and you are not being considerate of how I just picked up all of the clothing and I just folded and I just put it away. And then you're coming in and just leaving, and you weren't picking them up. I was going right back and picking up the very stuff that I would say, hey, could you the basket's right there. Just put it right next to the basket, right? So we keep having the same conversation.
But the basket's not always there.
Okay. Maybe, pro tip, maybe you should take yourself to the basket and just take them off there.
Sure.
Yeah. Okay. But here's where my growth came in because it wasn't worth it anymore to me. I just felt like if he wanted to, he would.
Mm-hmm.
He clearly does not want to, or he would. So I really don't even say anything anymore.
No.
Right? I
don't.
just let it go.
It's just not an argument.
But
anymore.
I also decided that I'm not picking him up.
Yeah. You also decided that.
I'm not, I can serve my husband and I want to serve my husband. I want to love my husband. I will do just about anything for Erik.
Yeah.
But I don't need to pick up your underwear and socks anymore. And I see it and I'm like, Erica, it's not the end of the world. And it's not that Erik doesn't love you because he keeps doing this 18 years later, right? I used to take it so personal, like it was this just total lack of regard, lack of respect, lack of consideration, lack of love. And I just don't think it's that. What's the word? I just don't think that's really the case. Would it be nice if you would shift this part of yourself 100%? It would be. But that's an area where I've also learned that for so long I was trying to bring you along on my journey. Like I was growing in ways that I felt like you were not growing. Like when we started this adventure, this business.
Well, and there's a problem. Like when couples feel like they don't have direction or they don't have an aim.
Yes.
Or one does have direction and aim and the other one has direction and aim, but they're not directed and aimed at the same thing.
Right.
They're going in 2 different directions. That's the problem that a lot of couples face. And we faced that. Mm-hmm. I was working a job thinking I'm going to work to my death.
You liked it. You wanted to.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm going to work toward my own personal goal. I had this thing that I wanted to become and feeling like I was providing for you and so that you could stay at home, care for the kids and have that life. But you also weren't content there in that sense. You wanted more and you saw me struggling at my job and saying, why don't we try something different?
When you say I wanted more, what I started to see was this whole world outside of education. We both had grown up in this school. We met in this school, right? We went back and we taught in the same place. And I just thought we would just be teachers and we would maybe die teachers one day, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is what you're saying. But then I discovered this whole other world. And as I was discovering this whole other world, I'm like, Erik, there's a whole universe out here that we don't even know about.
Yeah.
Like, come and see, come and behold.
Yeah.
And Erik was not.
I was like, I don't think there is
Wanting to
another
behold.
world. This is it. This is the safe one. This is the safe one that I know. It's like that movie, the duck movie. I always compare it to that duck movie.
Migration.
Migration.
Oh, that movie made Erik cry. That little cartoon, you guys.
Oh, because it's like a symbol of lots of people's lives where they have in this movie, the father duck just wants to stay in his pond.
He does.
No matter how gross and disgusting the pond is, it's what he knew. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't want to leave it.
Yeah.
Whereas the wife's like, no, I just heard about, wasn't it the Bahamas or something? I want to go to the Bahamas. I want to go to paradise.
Yeah.
And the husband reluctantly goes to the Bahamas. And what begins is this great adventure.
Well, there's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of fear. There's a lot of scary moments that they experience while they're trying to reach paradise. Right? And the father is terrified pretty much the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
But don't want to spoil the movie, so go watch it.
And I guess there's also the comparison to Abraham
Yes.
getting called from his father's house to go to the land that I'm going to show you.
Yeah.
There's parallels there that life should be about an adventure that you get to go on. And it's going to be scary, but it's also where you're going to find growth.
Yeah.
You cannot grow if you stay in a comfort zone or in a comfort mindset.
Yeah.
You have to look and say, what's the greatest adventure that I can be called to? Because that's where the growth is.
And that's so much of the Bible. So many people got called on these journeys, right? And then in that calling, that's when God would make them great, right? And I think, what if we started to see marriage as the same thing, as this calling where we're called together and right to be one flesh, but individually we are given directives from the Lord. And if you took that calling as an individual, it will enhance your unity and it will enhance the impact that you as a couple can then have on the kingdom. And I think that's what, like, when I was trying to say to you, Erik, behold this world, it was even like I was seeing things for the first time that I wanted you to see, because I thought if you could take and lay eyes on this, you would even grow in ways that you didn't even know are possible. And I see that now. So, like, we were on a walk, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and you were talking, and I said, man, if you ever told me that my husband would be talking about this and he would be dreaming of a world outside of being a teacher or being a principal or being in education, that you are even surprised that that's how you talk now, right? Yeah. That there's other ways to dream and think, and there's other journeys that the Lord could possibly have for you. But that's what's important about the willingness to grow as an individual.
Yeah.
Because if you had kept fighting that, I do think that it would have caused some bitterness in me. It would have caused some resentment in me. Because not because you had to do things my way, but because I felt so strongly that God was calling me and then us in this particular direction. Mm. And I just would have felt like things were just stagnant. Yeah. If you weren't willing to be like, okay, what does it look like to journey with her in this? And that's what all of marriage should be. It should be the individual saying, how can I grow? How can I improve? What can I do that makes me willing to sacrifice for this other person, willing to die for myself so that that person can be made greater and stronger and more supported? And then what can we do together that's going to make us greater and stronger and have the greatest kingdom impact, right? And have the most influential impact on our home.
I think of those walks that we would take when we opened up the business.
Yes.
And we had never prayed for and with each other more than in that season and in the seasons coming after that.
Right.
We would wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. to go on our walks, to discuss how we need to grow this business, to discuss what we need to do for our family, and then to end it in prayer together. And it was going on the great adventure that caused the growth. Looking at life and saying, what do I need to do to get out of the comfort zone that I'm in right now?
Yes.
To push on, to push forward. And God met me there. He met us there and laid out the path that we're on right now.
Yeah.
But I also look and say that if it wasn't for that, we wouldn't have been prepared for the cancer journey that we went on.
Oh, yes.
It was the foundation of that growth, that we were going on walks, that we were growing in unity together, getting fortified for a season that we had no idea was coming.
Right.
If it wasn't for that, I don't think that we would have been as strong going into the cancer, that season where it was chemo and suffering and hardship, that storm that was right around the corner. We wouldn't have been fortified for it. I don't think we would have gotten divorced, but I don't think we would have been as strong as we were to face the battle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you are a couple, I'm just thinking this through as I'm saying it, so give me a moment. If you are a couple and you are living in isolated worlds and you're not coming together on something, when the storm comes raging in, you're grabbing your paddle boat and he's grabbing his, versus you guys trying to get on the raft together because each of you are just trying to outlast the storm on your own with your own techniques. And versus when we were growing and building together, we were learning that we could not get upstream without the other person. We had to learn how to move in sync. We had to learn, okay, he's tired now, you row. Or she's tired now, it's your turn to row, right? We had to learn that. And so I think the Lord was sovereign in this, right? We were incidentally doing the work that was going to prepare us for the big storm coming. Yeah. But this is the caution to couples is why you can't get complacent. You can't just stop the chase. You can't just be okay with the roommate phase. It's okay to be in a roommate phase. We all been there. But
it's not fun.
It's not fun.
It's not as fun as.
But recognize
beyond that.
Yeah, but recognize when you're in the roommate phase and be like, hey, we're here. We're roommates, but we need to connect more so that we can get ourselves out of this phase. And it's hard when you're like two ships passing in the night, right? That's really hard on a marriage. But recognize it.
Yeah.
And what do we need to do to get ourselves out of this phase? And I think if both people are continuously willing to grow, that's one way you don't have to spend as long in those harder phases. Or you are going to be more victorious in battling whatever battle comes to you.
Because the storms are going to come.
They're coming.
You're not going to avoid catastrophe.
No.
Whether it's a family member passing, a medical issue, a sin issue that comes up, there's going to be something very big that comes in and interrupts.
Yeah.
And it's in those moments where the level of growth that you've had is revealed. And it's either going to reveal in a way that leads to separation, or in a way that could reveal, like that it could cause you to say, we have to get more fortified.
Yeah.
We love each other. We're committed to each other. But those are moments that reveal the next season of life whether driving apart or driving together.
Right. And that's such a good, I think a good transition to an action point, which I would say, don't look at someone as a potential spouse as like, oh, we're compatible. Our personalities are compatible, right? Their person is really attractive because looks are going to fade, right? Or that person, I'm drawn to that person because of, their financials, because that can also ebb and flow. Look at that person as, is this someone who I see when I'm dating striving to always grow? Not chase the next best thing, okay? But someone who wants to always be a better version of himself or herself. Because when you get married, even if it's not consistent, that person will still be someone who's always striving to become a better version of himself or herself. And now, especially as believers, we want somebody who's always going to pursue God, right? And then who's going to love others more than he loves himself, right? And so I think if I could go back to our initial, what happened to the chase, I think I would say focus less on the chase and more on the person who's chasing you. And focus on the character of that person as far as, is this someone who constantly wants my best? Is this someone who constantly wants to be his best so that together we can be our best? Because that's what's going to withstand compatibility or anything, right?
Well, and you see that when you'd have a person. I remember there was a couple who the girl starts dating the guy, so then the guy starts going to church.
Yes.
There was no evidence of a desire to go and grow with God apart from the relationship with the girl. So that's, to me, is like that's a bit of a red flag.
Yeah.
You only are pursuing God because you feel like it gets you the girl.
Yeah.
Rather than a person who pursues God and regardless of whether he gets a girl. That's a starting point to see character.
Yeah.
Who were they apart from you? And if you're having to drag them into things, that's a job interview process.
Ooh, if you're having to drag your man anywhere, you are going to be dragging that man your whole marriage.
Right, for sure. 100%. And they're not going to want to do it.
Yeah.
Because once the chase is over and the thrill is over, like, oh, okay, we're married now. What are they going to want to do that anymore? That's just something they did in order to get you.
Yeah.
And chances are they're not going to have that same desire to keep you.
And that's exhausting.
Oh,
that's
days.
hard. But if I want to flip this, it's hard too, because what I learned too is that I needed to let God bring you along.
Yeah.
Right? I couldn't, I think, and this is to the joke about the socks and the underwear, like, I could nag you, but for what? You don't need to be nagged.
Yeah.
I don't need to baby you. I don't need to mother you. I just need to say, hey, Lord, I just need to pray over these things and concerns for my husband and trust that you are going to sanctify him, because you at least want to be sanctified.
I sure
you
do.
want to be more like the Lord.
I sure do.
So if I've done my research before I said yes to marrying you, I at least know that I don't have to drag you. I need to let the Lord and sometimes your mama work on you.
Well, and what I appreciated about you in that season is you were doing the work of learning and growing and praying, and not like and trusting that in God's time I would come on board with you. You never forced or hey, it was just, hey, this is what I'm learning. Do you want to learn this? You'd send me videos. Hey, this is what I'm learning.
Nope.
do you want? Are you interested in this?
Didn't want to learn. Didn't want to watch the videos.
And now I'm sending you videos.
And I'm like, dude, quit sending me all these videos. Is this what it was like? Yeah,
Good.
and it's really cool, because what we're also seeing is it's inspiring our children, right, to dream a different way, or to want to better themselves or to ask these questions about God and what it means to walk with him. And I think maybe one of the greatest gifts you can even give your children is to always keep striving to grow in the Lord, but also as a person, because that's going to rub off on them. And then they're going to bring that to a future spouse, and then they're going to bring that to their home and to their children.
That's
and
a
to
legacy.
The kingdom.
That's a legacy. You start that legacy right now with the way that you do. Some people think about legacy being something they get to pass on when they're in their 60s or 70s, rather than saying, how can I be the legacy right now for my kids, that they're watching something great happen right in front of their eyes. They don't have to wait to see it be passed down. It's not something that happens when a person turns 65, 70, and they say, here's the legacy that I get to pass on. It's here's a legacy right now in this moment of a way to pursue God and to live life in this great adventure. The great adventure that has caused me to pray more and seek God more than I ever have before.
Yeah. And it's beautiful, and it's inspiring to me. And I guess here's my question, just practically, what happens when the spouse is like, I don't want to grow? Like I'm okay being exactly as I am, doing exactly what I'm doing. I'm not interested.
You laid out the blueprint. You laid out the framework. There's that old saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make them drink.
Sure can't.
And that's the same that's true in marriage. And don't neglect the fact that God's working on you too. And sometimes God is working to slow you down.
Oh, he slows me down. he
and
uses
using your
Erik
spouse to slow you down in the best ways, not in bad ways, but in the best ways.
Yeah.
Because you can go too fast for your own good. And there's a pacing that has to be in place. And what God can be working in you is a faith and trust in his timing, not your timing.
And not my own strength.
Because you have a timing that is hard to meet. I don't even know if God can. Well, clearly God doesn't meet your timing standards. You're like, I want it now.
Yes.
I want it yesterday.
Yeah, and I've had to grow in that because I keep this imaginary time in my head, and nobody seems to
care about it.
Nobody cares about my time.
Everybody's like, no, we don't care about your time.
And that used to drive me crazy, and it still does a little bit. But I'm growing in that.
Right.
I'm trying to be patient in that. I'm trying to say, Lord, not my will, not my time, but your will and your time. And if you got to use the 7 kids to do that, if you got to use my husband who, needs more time to process,
well,
I'm going to wait.
What you're going to learn is that your timing is not more important than your unity.
No, it's not.
Because you pushing forward and pressing on while the other person is slowing down and not quite there leads to a drift apart. And so there is a giving it to the Lord and saying, God, in your timing, in your perfect timing, you will bring about this change, this growth that I want.
Yeah.
And how many times have we seen that God slowing us down actually was the best thing for us?
That was countless.
Because we would have gotten way
countless.
What did they say? Over your skis or whatever.
Never heard that.
No, it's probably because we don't ski. But I think that means you get into a dangerous position.
Yeah.
You're out on the branch and it's about to crack and you think that it's sturdy because you're pursuing forward. You think that this is what God has for you until the branch breaks.
Yeah.
But it's only in God's goodness that he stops you from taking that extra step out on that branch.
Yeah.
And actually calls you back. Say, no, you're going too far out. And it's not until later on that we look back and say,
and we look back
only for God that we didn't make that
Yes,
decision, make that
yes.
choice.
In what waiting on God's timing or even
Here's an example.
Yeah.
You were dead set on getting a second event space. You were like, this is the thing that needs to happen. And I was like, girl, let's figure out our first one before we get a second one. You're like, no, I feel like this is what the Lord has for me.
Yes.
And I'm like, well, I don't feel like it's what the Lord has for me. So what is he? He has something for you that's not for me.
Yeah.
And you were pushing and I was like, slow down. And I conceded to the point of saying there's nothing wrong with going and looking, and maybe something makes sense that I don't know. I'm gonna maybe say that the Lord is leading you towards something, but I'm going hesitantly because it's got to make sense for our family and be safe. And we go and we look at a couple of spaces, and the next month you get diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And had we gone at your pace,
but
we would have had 3 more events.
Yes, we would have. And who knows?
Every building you saw was
them all.
the dream.
I love them all. But we were, so the week before I got my actual diagnosis, we were going to sign on a second space. So we even got that far.
We did get terms put out there. I was still very hesitant. You were signing. I was like,
but God's timing was so good in that, and even in your leadership or just your traits of just moving a little bit slower, because we did not, and that kept us from being in greater financial struggles once the diagnosis hit, right? And I am thankful for that. And then what we ended up doing was using our first space to actually get the second space we wanted, because we used the back area, right? Yeah. So we eventually got what I wanted.
God led us to exactly
but that was
where
God.
we needed to be.
Yes, that was God.
And so you asked, what do you do if one person's growing fast and another person's growing slow? Well, slow motion's better than no motion, and trust in God's timing to get them there. Now, what if it is no motion?
People in society today would be like, I've outgrown you. Skibbity bop, you just got dropped.
You can't leave. And that's, I know that that's hard to say, but it's like you've made a commitment and a covenant. You might be growing, but into who or what? Yeah. God does not say, yes, you can go ahead and divorce your husband or your wife if they're not growing to, and who knows if they're not growing. Right. They're not growing to your standard, certainly. But if, let's even say all the way to prove the point, yes, you are 100% right. They have zero growth. They have zero ambitions. And you're going to divorce them? Well, what are your ambitions then? Because they're outside of God's word. They're outside of God's truth. So you've now stepped into a zone of, I'm growing, but into who or what? Because it's not into anything that God's called you to be. God's called you to be a husband or a wife to this person, to this spouse, all the way to the end. They haven't cheated on you. They're just not, their ambitions just don't match yours.
And that's a hard place to be.
I'm not going to deny that it's a hard place to be. But it's like, though, we have conversations with people who are struggling in life, and they're questioning, what do they have? What does life have for me? And they're not living inside of God's law. They're like, they might be a couple that's living together and questioning without being married and questioning, why does it just feel like life is so hard? It's like, well, maybe you're outside of God's design. You're outside of God's design. And how do you simultaneously expect God's blessing without being obedient? Yeah. Those two don't match up, right? God has good for those who God works all things for the good of those who love him and keep his commandments. So you're not, and how do you show that you love God? You obey God. Your love for God is matched with your obedience to God.
And to that point, right? So the question I asked was, well, what if one of you is just not growing? If you're walking in the Lord and keeping his commands, both people should be growing. Maybe not at the same rate, but both people should be growing at some pace at all times of a marriage, right? And that is loving someone more than you love yourself. That is submitting to one another, like Christ calls us to. That is truly sacrificing what you may want or not want to do at a time because you understand that it's for the greater good of the unity.
And that's what I think that we're making clear. The unity is more important than the pace.
Right.
And if you pursue unity, you're not going to grow apart because that's the biggest scary thing. How many couples cite that they got divorced because they just grew apart?
A lot.
A lot. We just grew apart. Well, that means you didn't pursue unity. You pursued a growth that caused drift and caused a gap in your relationship. You're not growing in trust. You're not growing together. You're not growing in unity and trusting that God will use that far more than he will use your personal growth. Not that you neglect your personal growth, but you don't pursue that at the expense of unity to your spouse.
Yeah, and bring your spouse along for the ride. Like you're growing. Why not be like, hey, this is what I'm learning. This is a video that inspired me. Like, let your spouse into your brain, into your journey, because maybe they want to come along. Maybe they can also, something inside of them can be sparked because of what God's doing inside of you.
And they will come along.
Yeah.
When did you start on this personal journey toward where we are right now? 2018, 2019?
Yeah.
It took 6 or 7 years, but we got there.
Oh my goodness. I would be like,
We got there.
Eric, just jump with me. And he'd be like, I'm not jumping. That's good for you. But I really just kept sharing because I think for me, I was seeing how I was growing and I was seeing how much better I was feeling about these possibilities that I was learning. I mean, literally, it's like growing up in the hood, right? I didn't realize, like, in the ghetto, just if you just drive 30 minutes away, sometimes even 15, if you just drove 15 minutes outside of these walls, there's, like, people who don't live like this, where there's drug dealers and drive-bys and gangs. Like, there's a whole nother world. And that's what it felt like when I was learning from all of these different people. I was like, oh, my goodness. There's another world, and I wanted my best friend to know.
And I was like, no, I just want to stay in the ghetto, y'all.
Yeah, boy, get out the ghetto. It ain't safe there. Jump, man.
But it feels like this is all I know.
I know.
Right?
And it doesn't feel bad, right? I didn't know that drive-by is like, I mean, yeah, you shouldn't kill people. I got that, but I didn't know I lived in this, like, not great world.
Not safe.
Right? Or not safe.
Yeah.
And not that education was not great or not, whatever. It was safe, right? But it was limiting in a lot of ways.
Well, going with what we said, it was what was comfortable.
It was what was comfortable.
And when you're in that love, that comfort zone, you're not going to pursue and grow.
And you're not going to realize, like, God, you could have this for me. You could have more than I ever dreamed and imagined for me if I just am willing to grow. You can be a whole entirely different person beyond anything that you and your own efforts would have pursued if you are willing to trust that if you obey the word of God, if you're living in alignment with what the Lord has said and called you as a man or woman of God, and if you're being sanctified, I mean, that's actually what the growth is, right? Like, it's not just go exercise, go eat healthy. Like, we're talking about like deep level sanctification here, which we're masking as this word of growth, right? But if you're letting the Lord work on you, in you, through you, that will have an outflowing in your home, in your marriage. And it's incredible what the Lord can do.
What's incredible is I never knew how much I didn't control until I stepped out of the where I was in education. I loved the security of the paychecks come twice a month. That was
It's nice.
very nice, and a lot of security there. But again, there was pretend control over over my own life and over my own future. And what was great was stepping out made me see and actually depend on God for the next client, for the next, and I got to grow sharper. But God, you've got to provide.
Yeah.
It's on you, Lord. And it grew me in dependence. It grew me in prayer. What do they say? I lived as though it depended on me, but prayed as though it depended on God. It grew me in that of working, but depending.
Yeah.
There were many days where I would make money, but it was all just anxious toil, right? Because I would be working so hard, but not with a trust in God's provision, working as though that anxious work that it's going to depend on me.
Right.
And that was hard. But what God grew in me during that time was a trust in his faithfulness that I can say, I truly just hope in God.
Yeah.
I don't have anxiety over money today.
Which is a miracle.
A huge miracle.
For who
right?
you are. Yeah.
But it only happens when you receive the invitation to grow.
And now,
and
wait,
say,
can I say you don't have anxiety over money, not because we have a lot of it.
No,
quite the opposite.
No, opposite. Right?
But it's what God's been doing in you.
Seeing the ways that God provides in his timing and in his way. And when he opens the doors and shines the lights in those spaces of your mind to realize a way that you can do something differently and better. Yeah. You just say it's all in his timing. I have to keep on waking up and working and growing and trusting in God's provision.
Yeah.
But it only happens when you decide, I'm going to work to grow daily. I'm going to pray and rely on God and his provision and see that actually my marriage is going to grow stronger. Yeah. Everything's going to grow stronger as a result of that choice. Yeah.
I mean, outwork yourself, right?
Yep.
Nobody else is your competition. You should be your only competition. We don't need women. Like when we first got married, I'd be like, grow up, Erik. Well, like, I just wanted you to grow up. But that was harmful because, one, it was not nice how I was saying the things, right? But also, two, I don't need to belittle you or pressure you to man up is what I was wanting you to do, right? I can still love you, care for you, and work on myself and trust the Lord to do his work in me, but also trust that he's going to bring you up to the standards that he's called you, right? He's going to make you the man that he's designed you to be, as long as you and I are both willing to walk as unto the Lord as he's called. God is going to grow us. May not be at the same time, but we can stop nagging our spouse. We can stop being like, I'm doing all this and you're still the same. We can stop doing all that. Let me pray for you more than I nag you. Let me share with you what I'm learning. Okay?
You get a little ghetto here. Share with you.
I think I just stumbled over my words, but I can do some ebonics. I can flip if I needs to. Okay? Let me show you what I'm learning in case you want to learn too. Mm-hmm. Because if I rise, you rise.
Yep.
I don't have to spit on you and look down on you while I'm rising, because that's only going to bring friction and then we're never going to make it together.
Yep.
Right? if you love your spouse, you are going to work hard to grow to keep your spouse. That's what I said. If you love your spouse, you are going to work hard to grow to keep your spouse. And
That's
that growth
right.
is going to come from every area. Physically, mentally, spiritually, financially. You're going to be working on all, emotionally. That's a huge one. You're going to be working on all of these areas to strengthen and better yourself because you want to stay married to that person that you took those vows with. And if you looked your spouse in the face and said, I don't want to grow, I'm fine with how I am. Boy, you better call down Jesus.
That's a rough space.
That's a rough space.
I'm happy with where I am. Sheesh.
Yeah. Unless your spouse is also happy with where you are, you should not be
But
happy
there's no shot.
with where you
There's
are.
no shot.
No, not with that attitude. This is, right? Husbands, love. What's the verse, Schwartz? Tell it to me, preacher man.
Husbands, love your wives as Christ loves the church.
Yeah. And that's,
And wives, submit to your husband.
yes. Be somebody that your wife wants to submit to. Live your life in that way. Not just because God called her to submit to you. That's not how that works, right? But if you're living your life in such a way, well, in God's way, she's going to want to follow you,
That's right.
right? She's going to want to support you, help you, do what it takes to walk alongside of you, right? And husbands, if you are loving your wife the way that God calls you, man, you are waking up being like, how can I outlove this woman today? How can I out-sacrifice this woman today? How can I give of myself to this woman today? And that flows over to your kids if you have them, right? That's a beautiful marriage. It's a powerful marriage.
That's a powerful marriage. That's a marriage that God can use to transform the world. And that's what we should all aim to pursue.
Yeah.
How can we build a marriage that can transform the world?
Yeah. Amen.
Amen.
Never give it up. And you got me setting all I know on fire. 'Cause you